said, I don't think there's too much. I'm like, I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
My boss's wife, and today at the shop, she was like, yeah, I got some from Ryan, and they work. Just like, it just like.
Do you wear like contacts normally or nothing?
No, I just have to have these anymore.
And for me, like my vision sucks. So I need glasses bad, but so I can see far away now. But now I can't read like.
Yeah.
I have trouble like right now with the computer, like my phone. Like
Yeah.
I have to like.
I guess it makes things a little dim, I guess, because it just, does something to your pupils. So I think it's.
So every day. It's,
Yes, whenever you think you want, and they'll last for like 8 hours. Yeah, it's just drop. You put a drop in each eye.
For nearsightedness or anything?
Just,
That's all I need these for is to read.
yeah, and that's what you do. So you do a drop in each eye, and wait a second, blink around, and then you do another drop, and I guess you're good for 8 hours.
huh?
Does it affect your
Who said it works?
No?
Nicole.
Nicole did it? I'm gonna ask her about it.
Yep.
I remember my eye doctor talking about that at my last appointment. I was like, well, okay, I'll just keep wearing my glasses.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
I don't like
Problem
contacts
is
either, though. I
I
don't like putting anything in my eyes, so.
I just have about 10 pair of these every place. Because I need them to read, but I leave them lay everywhere, you know? I don't need them otherwise.
If I ate
Pretty
better
lucky.
exercise,
Yeah,
more
yeah.
stuff, drinking, and got to sleep, I probably need glasses all.
I've been dependent on my contacts since like 6th grade.
I've been like this
Small
way
print.
second grade.
Contact, I was gonna say contacts since 6th.
Yeah.
Glasses probably since 2nd.
Really?
I wore contacts from about 6th through
I'll get there.
Remember when I
Once you start.
I don't know,
first got
10 years
readers,
ago, and then I just
like the doc says, hey,
I just, I
I
see
didn't
no
have
problem.
glasses.
This is weird, but
well, you're
Going
52,
down the
you're
steps
better
wearing
than 90% of
You?
it's like a weird thing.
you can
Just
still
getting
see
used
it.
to it.
yeah.
Just get them read. Headaches.
Well,
I boycotted it for 2 years and I get headaches when I read.
Going to it then over.
I think it has a lot to do with the blue screen.
Yep.
There's that break thing that comes up. And you walk around there, close doors.
Speaking of, I'm like, my brightness, it's like it's dim again.
So, and I go to the gym, and I catch it in 5 Right. Yes, season 2. Like 1 to 6:50.
You better get the life alert button.
Exactly. Yeah, stuff on there.
I will admit my parents think I'm
This is a deal from solar. Oh, yeah.
than I feel like I am now.
That's
You
where
know,
Right.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was stuff like if something between us and where it comes from.
Yeah, because it's just easy. At the station or
Especially, sounds great. It goes for you, right. She's line shaping and. Very silver line. Beautiful country out there.
Yeah.
Didn't go into any cities, but still very beautiful.
Would it be the worst?
Yeah.
That's good. Flew into Sacramento, which is super chill compared to all the.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely forgot.
Yeah, it is.
Let's do it now.
This is confusing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Nate, any additions to the agenda this evening?
A couple changes here, Mayor. Under personnel, I'd like to add a resignation and a hire. Really just adding names, it's already agenda. Then Tyson asked if we could do the liquor license renewal today, the alcohol license renewal today. Just gives us a little bit more time to get that to the state. Then I just add a couple of documents here earlier. An email is on your desks from US Solar. A copy of that's been provided on the back desk, back table for anybody to read. Then budget PDF was added tonight. It sounds like that didn't get uploaded earlier, so.
Okay, so these are under the consent agenda?
All of those are under, the two documents are under public hearings. Those other ones are all under consent agenda. So
Okay.
you're only adding one item. It would be for you, alcohol license renewal.
Yep. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion carries. The first item of business is our public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at 7:02 p.m. And Nate?
Mayor and Council, tonight is the public hearing for the draft budget for fiscal year 2026. Public hearing is an opportunity for the City Council, excuse me, City Council and the public to review the proposed 2026 budget. Rather than spend time on a line-by-line review of the budget, I have prepared a short PowerPoint that we'll go through just as an overview. The full budget is included in your packets for review. Department heads are in attendance to answer any questions. Our goal tonight is to hear feedback from the public and City Council on this proposed budget. That way, any changes that are made between now and November 10 can be incorporated into the first reading of the appropriations ordinance at the November 10 meeting. We anticipate passage at that first meeting. If changes are made after that or at that point, then we'd have to have a second first reading, so we'd have to schedule a public or a second special meeting. So following my presentation, I encourage the mayor to open for public comment on the budget and follow that period with council discussion. Of course, any questions during the presentation, feel free to speak up. Excuse me. So, overview tonight of the budget. A short presentation, not line by line. Department heads are here to answer questions, and the budget spreadsheet is available in PDF form in your packets. First, an overview of the funds. There are 12 separate funds that comprise the city budget. Each fund has a dedicated revenue source and expenses that are allowable. Interfund transfers are often discouraged, but in many cases are necessary. So it's kind of there are some cases where it's allowed, others where it's not. Fund accounting is used to track the different revenue and expenses that are assigned to different uses. So you'll see in that table there, the fund number, the name, and what it's typically used for. Going from Fund 101 all the way to 614, which would be the pool. Our goals for this budget, it was a very challenging budget, probably the most challenging I've had in my time here. We wanted to control that property tax levy again, and hope to be able to keep that down. That's not the case. It's going to go up slightly due to limited growth in 2025. So if we have the fewer new homes and new value we create in Lennox, that levy can't be reduced very much. So you need to have that growth to keep bringing that levy down. Otherwise, I mean, if we hadn't done countryside or seen other growth in the last few years, you'd see that levy closer to 9 or 10 yet, so you'd probably be paying double your property taxes. So because we were trying to keep it fairly lean, we were focusing on the continuity of operations, limit expense growth to the extent possible due to increasing constraints on property tax, and what we plan on being very limited sales tax growth next year. In terms of revenue, we'll see about a 5.5% growth in property tax revenues next year, 2.5% growth in sales tax revenues. That's the smallest percentage we've budgeted in my time here. We've just kind of seen things kind of stagnate a little bit in the last 8 months. And we've had some really good months, but then we will drop back again too. So General consensus economically is that next year plan on 2 to 3% growth. We expect a slowdown in building permits in 2026. We've confirmed some of that now as well. Continue to see increases in earned interest as a result of our banking changes. So you remember several years ago, we changed banks so that we could take advantage of some what's known as sweeps, and that earns us about $140,000 a year in new revenue. So overall revenue increase is about 7%. Expense-wise, we'll go kind of more detail in general fund since that's where most of our time is spent. Parsed out very similar to how we did it last year. In terms of city council, we reduced expenses there simply because last year we planned for a more expensive planning retreat. That was only $1,500 this year, give or take for our consultants, so we plan for very similar next year. I was hoping to have audio video upgrades again, the third straight year. That has not made the final cut. If that's something you want to do, I would suggest you do it in the second penny, though that has its own set of challenges. Then the city administrator's salary is per the most recent agreement. That compensation is determined in December by the city council. In finance and general government, we did see a small increase in each. In finance, saw some increased wages and increases in training. And then some just various increases in general government, nothing that was too drastic. We'll see an increase in legal fees next year, at least I'm planning on it. We've got 2 unresolved cases that are still kind of taking up a bit of time for the 2 firms that we've been working with. Then we see a decrease in engineering fees to continue following this year. We've used maybe half of our budget this year. I don't see any reason that would change next year at this point. In terms of public safety, you'll see a slight increase to police officers due to the addition of a school resource officer. So we pay that position at 40%, school will pay 60%, and that's adding the position mid-year. We'll have a future agenda item on your agenda, I think for November 10, to look at a draft agreement. Nothing we need to act on yet, but just a heads up. No other real substantial changes. We do have to make a small market adjustment on some wages in keeping with the new job descriptions that were passed by the city council. We did eliminate 2 new full-time patrol officers from the original budget. That is something we do need to do at some point, though. It's you know, if you see the number of calls we're handling, it is something that we need to start balancing with growth in that department as well. The fire department budget, and that request is in your packets, is based on the number of structures in Lennox. So the growth in that budget is being driven by new rooftops and countryside. I did thank Chief Fugnes, and I'll thank him again now for a very detailed budget request. That's something that I think was badly needed and maybe a little bit of a sore point for us historically. And the amount of detail that we get in that budget now is it's just fantastic. Streets, parks, and recreation. I see a modest increase in wages and salaries in streets. Outside of that, I think the biggest increase you're going to see is street lighting. We're anticipating a 16% increase in Excel's rates next year. And that's, I think it's probably $75,000 a year we spend on street lighting now. In parks and recreation, you're going to see a significant change over the budget, but not to this year's actuals. You'll recall the Park and Recreation Director was not budgeted an expense in 2025. We did that after the budget was approved. So we'll continue that. And then some continued beautification efforts, some discretionary funds for the city, for the park board to make use of. The library saw an overall decrease in their budget. That's because the circulation desk project was completed this year. Thank you to the school district for making that happen. In economic development, reduced LADC $5,000 from what was requested in the letter in their budget request. So what they're requesting was $65,000. I've got them in there for $60,000. They also requested another lot to put the next schoolhouse on. So they're requesting that lot that would have been a right-of-way on 7th Avenue. I don't know if you'll recall that discussion from earlier this year. We had to discuss whether or not to continue use of that as a right-of-way. It doesn't seem like there's any interest in doing so, and so we could probably clap that off and make use of it otherwise. And a little bit more funding for Park Drive after 5 in the promoting account. We've got a bunch of miscellaneous costs in here too. These are smaller departments within the general fund, so solid waste, insects, and weeds. See an increase in insects and weeds. Are planning on a wetter year again next year, and unfortunately we don't get reimbursed for the purchase of that insecticide anymore. That grant program for the Department of Health went away 2 years ago. Concerts, a small decrease. Museum about level, and a small increase in the senior citizens budget. We have not increased our lease rate at the Legion since we activated that lease, and I think it's probably time for us to have that discussion. Moving on to Fund 201, the Recreation Fund. We do have some new revenue in there for some identified new programs. I don't know if everybody saw the survey that went out this morning. Within 2 hours, we had almost 100 responses already. So there's certainly interest in new programs. Just got to figure out what those are going to be. Did budget for a net gain in that department of just under $2,000. In the sales tax funds, there are two funds here, Fund 211, which is third penny, and Fund 212, which is second penny. I know that's backwards, but it's the way they set it up. We are starting to see an increase in our third penny revenue, which is odd given the fact that Beamer's hasn't been open for some time. We're guessing that increase is probably coming from El Mariachi, but we're not positive. We don't get individual reports. All of that third penny revenue is transferred to the pool, the swimming pool, to cover those losses. Second penny, we're again projecting 2.5% growth in sales tax revenue. Oriole Avenue, our cost share for that is included for 2026. I was able to bring that down a little bit because most of the engineering engineering design costs are going to be spent this year, which brought this budget down a little bit for next year. We got some significant purchases in equipment next year. A new ambulance, 2 new police vehicles, one for the regular rotation and the other for a new school resource officer, as well as a new half-ton streets truck and one other piece of streets equipment. We'll also transfer out funds to ambulance and the pool, so about $133,000 will go to the ambulance, $158,000 will go to the pool. So overall, we're applying fund balance, which essentially means that we're budgeting a loss and using reserves of about $550,000 next year.
So clarity on that comment, if you don't mind me jumping in. 133 to the ambulance, and you stated 158 to the pool. I would guess that's 25 to the pool, for a total of 158 between the two.
It is 158 between the two. Let me make sure I have the numbers right. Correct, 25.5 from second penny for the pool. Thank you. The street maintenance fund, again, this is the revenue source for this is the linear street maintenance fee of $2.50 that was enacted by the city council back in, I believe it was August. Expected revenue in there is $377,000 with expenses of approximately $167,000. We are planning on a small job next year. We'll probably add this to the Oriole Avenue project, a concrete repair project. We've seen that there are some pieces of concrete that we've done in recent projects like Central Basin 1 or 2, even 3, where the concrete is outside of its warranty period, but we feel like we should still probably be the ones that are taking care of that. You know, if it's a cracked sidewalk, typically that would fall to a homeowner, but this is something that's typically less than 5 years old. I think we should probably be taking care of that. So we've got that budgeted in there as well. Fund 225, there's really no significant change here. This fund is used really just for some smaller drainage projects, and then the debt service for the Main Street project from 2016, I think, is also included in there. Fund 301 is just the debt service for the swimming pool, so this is property tax revenue as well. It's really just money in and money out on that one. You'll recall though that we are 1 year off of the payments for that so the first year that we were to collect for the swimming pool bond, the county failed to collect the revenue on that, the property taxes, and so we're basically falling a year behind there. They'll make it up to us. In the water fund, Fund 602, we project no rate increase to 2026. That is contrary to the guidance from HDR, but in keeping with our work on the DOC funding. So we'll probably have more information on that next year. Given the fact that those funds are, well, at least one of those funds is so healthy right now, I don't foresee any issues. We see increased use due to the new additions up in Countryside, so about 6% more meters in town next year than we had this year. Expenses are going to continue some equipment upgrades, including a vac truck. We'll have a hydrant and valve exercising program in 2026. And then our first large payment for the Lewis and Clark expansion is due next year. So we'll transfer funds in an interfund loan later this meeting to fund that expansion cost. In the sewer fund, again, no rate increase. We do see a slight rate increase in revenue due to the increased number of homes in town. Then we're going to continue some wastewater treatment facility equipment upgrades, especially our backup equipment purchases, so redundant equipment. Continued panel upgrades. I think we got the Lewis and Clark panel that needs to be replaced next year. And then that interfund loan to the water fund that I referenced earlier. In Fund 605, the ambulance, no real significant change in revenue or expense. We will see a small increase in range, but no other major changes. Budgeted loss next year is $133,000. As you all know, I'm ready to recommend that we cease emergency medical services to areas outside of Lennox in 2027, January of 2027. That does give us time to plan. Obviously, our best option for continuing that and having a sustainable ambulance services throughout the ambulance district. We'll see that work continue into next spring. Last but not least, we have the swimming pool fund, 614. We'll see a slight increase in revenue. We're planning on an increase in membership fees and a significant increase in the swimming lesson fee based on research with area pools. The wages are going up primarily due to the inclusion of the park and rec director in that budget. We got a loss of about $65,500 covered by a mixture of third penny and second penny. We will be purchasing one backup pump next year. We replaced one this year, so this will be a backup pump for our play feature. Last note that this budget will probably change between now and when we actually get to the pool. Staff is studying some staffing models to decrease expenses, but that's going to take some time to study. What other area pools are doing, what our best mixture is, what our best ratio is, so on and so forth. So next steps, we look for council discussion and any amendments tonight. With final revisions by staff due on November 3. That gives us about a week to wrap that up. Then we'll have the first reading on November 10th, second reading November 24th. And again, please make your recommendations tonight. If we make changes at the November 10 meeting, we'll have to have a special meeting there. Not impossible, but it just condenses that schedule a little bit. You have to have 5 days between meetings, or between readings, excuse me.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, all the staff that worked hard on this budget too. I appreciate it. Like to open it up for public comment now, and this is specifically for the 2026 proposed budget. So after that, council will discuss, and after we're done with the public comment piece of it. So if you'd like to speak on this, please come forward, state your name and address, and just please keep it to a couple of minutes.
Mitch Marcotte, 309 East 6th Street here in Lennox. And I just want to speak a little bit about what Nate mentioned earlier, which he actually has no connection to at all. But in the report for 2025, it states that Lennox has grown at a deliberate rate of 2 to 3% annually. And there is no data that actually shows anything like that. Up to 2020 or census, we're at 1%. And if I refer to the prior report in 2019, it said we were growing at 1%. I agree with that. We're growing at 1%. Now, I did find, even using the 2025 report data, that we do have little bounces year to year, like up to 1.4%, but we're not growing at 2 to 3%. Just for an example, in the prior report, 2019, 1% growth would give us 10 to 12 homes. Now, those have to be new homes, because I think you know that. Old homes is not growth. So if you sell an old home, it's not growth. It's maintaining. population, right? Now, 1% is 10 to 12, 2% is 20 to 24, this is easy math, right? 3% is 30 to 36. Now, if we were growing at 36, that'd be over a 5-year period, because we're starting at 2020, because that's when the last census was. And we can track this through Lincoln County sales and track by partial number. So we can actually look this stuff up, and I have, and it shows a good 1% growth. But let's just go back to those numbers. So 36 homes, it's 180 homes since 2020. Now, the new housing district, I think, has 150 slots. And I think there's about 50 to 60 that are still open. So it's not 180. So where are the homes? So 3%, that's not possible. We know what our population is. Now, if we look at our 2% growth, 120 homes. Well, that's close. And I did say before, we bounce like up to 1.4. Well, we have 32 homes open for sale, 7 in the new housing district. Now, it is somewhere, obviously, between 1% and 2% growth. It is not 3%.
What's your baseline for number of homes we have currently?
Baseline? For the number of homes that we currently have.
Yeah, you said we added 90 to 150 homes in this.
Well, it'd be whatever, there are some new startups, obviously, some lots got populated.
I'm just trying to do your math, like what was the baseline in 2020 number of homes?
Baseline 2020 was 10 to 12 homes per year.
But what's the denominator? How many homes exist in Lennox right now? Do you know that number?
That would have to, no, I don't, but it would have, yeah, I could get that. I mean, anybody could get that.
Probably roughly 1,000, 1,200.
1,175.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 90 divided by that's 8% is grown. So it's about 2 to 3% a year.
New
That-
homes.
Yeah. You said Countryside had 150
No,
spots and there's about
yeah.
50 left.
Yeah.
So, sorry, 100 homes.
So if you go on our base population, that doesn't come out that way. So the base population number is, by homes, is 2.5 people per home. So that also doesn't quite jive. If you look at the census data and our population growth per home, it's more like 1.8 to 1.9 is the rate. So we have to be careful about the numbers that we're actually looking at. I'm just saying, be careful about what you're looking at. Now, I'm going to contact the writer of this report, contact him already. We're going to talk this week, and I'm going to ask him about this number. Now, the rest of the numbers in the report about the population growth actually are not reporting this. They're not saying 2 to 3%. There's just one statement in there.
So, Mark, I just did some Google searching while we were talking, and our census number from U.S. Census Bureau in 2020 was 2,423 people. Is that what you've got as well?
It's somewhere around there.
And then the estimated U.S. Census Bureau number for 2025 in Lennox, South Dakota is 2,744 people. This is U.S. Census Bureau.
Yeah, okay.
That's 321 people. The aggregate growth over that 5 years to grow 321 people is 14.87% growth.
Is it, but if you're considering population growth, right? Okay. To have population growth, you have to have new housing, correct?
Countryside is a good start.
So when you look at those numbers and compare it to how fast we're growing in Countryside, it doesn't come out like you think it does. I'm just saying, be careful. It's not what you think it is. I mean,
What do you think? I guess what are we confusing?
well, what we're talking about is the percent of the growth, right? If we've been at a steady 1%, right? Oh, up to 2020, including the 2019 report states
That was
that.
prior to Countryside, which brought a whole
Yes,
confusion.
Countryside has created a great benefit for the community.
Okay.
It's created homes, but those homes are, they're not for the full population. We just, there has to be for new homes. I mean, new people moving in, that's what counts. But that doesn't give the numbers. like I said, 3% growth would be 180 homes required to meet the number that they're using. So the report refers to 2.4 people per home.
So what are you concerned with us planning for bigger growth than we maybe would not?
No, I'm just saying, we gotta be careful about our growth percentage because it is low. I mean, if there's a downturn in the economy, it wouldn't take too much to go the other way. Canton, for example, is down 4%, they're not up.
So what do you, I guess, I'm confused on what you're trying to convince us that we're doing.
I'm not trying to convince you anything, I'm just saying be careful about the numbers.
Okay.
All right?
So you want us to plan for less growth than what might happen?
No, I want you to plan for a consistent growth of 1% and probably on some good years, a 1.4% would be very appropriate. But a 2 to 3% growth over a 5-year period based on new homes and the average number of persons per home doesn't quite jive. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can choose how you see it. Growth is growth, and that is what I'm agreeing with. It is growth. And we're doing fantastic at 1 to 1.4% growth. But I don't think it's as high as it's portrayed. And that's what we have to be careful about. That's all.
Thanks for doing the research and sharing the.
Yeah,
sharing your
that's
findings.
all I'm saying. I'm saying we're doing really great, to be honest with you, and just want to be careful about those numbers.
Sure.
I will talk to the author, and he'll clarify that, 2 to 3%. Has nothing to do with you guys, but I'm concerned about a few of those numbers. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other public comment in regards to the budget, the proposed budget? Okay, I'll open it up for discussion within council or clarification or questions for department heads, things like that.
One question for Will on the new school resource officer. You mentioned, when is that gonna start? And I guess, is that gonna be a full-time position? Like what would they be doing during the summer or something?
The intent of that position is gonna be a full-time position. In the school months, due to the contract that we intend to enter in with the school, they will be obligated to the school from, like 7:30 till 3:45. And then after that, that's the end of their day, Monday through Friday. When school is not in session, then we will put them back in the PD. Estimating we'll have them for about 2.5 months.
Okay.
Any questions for Will while he's up there?
Timing wise, like when were we planning on getting that in? That's still up in the air.
In terms of hire,
Yeah.
we'd have to execute an agreement with the school district first. So
Okay.
that's the draft agreement that Madison used. We got from Mr. Shaw, superintendent at Lennox Schools. I've now modified that for our use, really just changing the names. Everything else in it is pretty solid. There's a couple things that we'll want to talk with them about, but a draft agreement will be on your agendas for November 10th, just to get some general feedback on the direction.
All in all, what I've seen of that draft, it looks pretty good.
New vehicle is in the budget, I see.
Yes, as our one for the school resource officer and then one for our natural rotation. As we talked about several years ago, we developed a rotation for ours, so it's every 5 years. This is a rotation year for us.
Very good.
I know at a committee meeting previously, we discussed, using whatever vehicle we take out of rotation and surplusing that to the fire department. Is that still kind of the plan?
As a command vehicle, yeah, I think that's possible.
That makes sense to me.
Either the one we're rotating out or just the one we're rotating out. I don't think we want to use the 15 for that.
Right.
We're rotating 18 out.
The 18 is gonna come out of service.
So that's the Explorer, or the Interceptor Explorer that Will's currently using. 90,000 miles.
I think I don't think we've hit 90 on it yet. But yeah, that would probably be the one that I would suggest for them to take over because it is already wired. All they have to do is make a few changes to things and add a radio to it, and it's already set up. Take the decals off, a couple $100 down to Jerry's to detail it up real good.
It is the wrong color, but
I don't think they care considering they don't have anything today, so.
We'll give them an improvement for the year or two.
Thank you.
Chief Erickson?
With 2 full-time officers not added, are we staffed properly for 2026 with this budget?
We will do just fine.
Okay.
We can make anything work. Like Nate and I have had many discussions about it, and can I make it work? Yes. Is it tough? Yes. Our guys struggle. We have trainings that we have to, work our schedules around. Some of the things that we deal with, it's not always easy, but as with anything, we can make it work. We've made it work for the past few years, and since we grew to a 5-man department, and we've kind of rounded our officers out, more of our officers that are coming here, have been here, they're leaning towards professional. So they want to get the trainings that take not 1 or 2 days, but they're 5-day trainings. And when that's your night guy that's gone for 5 days, everybody takes a little bite of that sandwich.
Yeah.
We move around, we have to sacrifice a little bit, but we make it work.
I would add to that with the number of cases we're getting, that takes our officers and puts them in court more frequently. So it's not uncommon for, Will and Mark, I think earlier this month, had to dedicate a full day to Canton, just wait to be called for court. Those things do add up, especially when we're seeing more drug and alcohol cases, more aggravated assaults. It takes more time to investigate, it takes more time to prosecute, it takes more of our time at court to testify. And I think Will's he's doing what he's supposed to do and saying, yeah, we'll make it work. But at the same time, I think we're really going to have to step up. If we can't do a full-time officer, we're going to have to step up how many part-timers we have and step up our expectations of how many hours they can pull, so.
The fact of the matter is every time one of my officers makes an arrest, they're gone from the town for roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yep.
And that's the good scenario.
Just to get them booked in.
If we only have one officer on duty, that is almost 2 hours without anybody in this town to cover.
Yep.
That has always made me feel uneasy. And at the level that we're now having interdiction, as I've expressed to Nate numerous times, it makes me with a lot less sleep at night. So that's why I went ambitious with 2 officers this year. Obviously, it doesn't pan out, but it is the discussion that we need to have. And the severity of calls that we end up dealing with, having one officer on some of them calls and waiting 10, 15 minutes for a backup officer to come from the county, that's not ideal for our personnel.
Right.
It can be life or death in some cases, and I'm not about ready to sit here and explain to somebody's family why I couldn't get them that backup.
If you look at Canton, Canton's probably the closest comparison to us in terms of size, maybe Beersford. I think Beersford's even got additional officers, so. I think if there is something that we can do this year or next year, if maybe revenue does pan out better, maybe expenses are gonna be better under control, I do think this is something we need to revisit sometime in 2026 to see if we can still do it.
With that new resource officer, is that something where if something were to come up with the other officer being out of town, that they would be able to help cover a call in the event?
Our day shift, we usually stock fairly well. So I'm here during the week, and then we have a natural officer that's on doing patrol. So if there is anything during the day shift time, I always can go and back them up. At night is my main concern, because we only have one person out. As far as to your question, it is in the contract that if a major event happens, that resource officer will get called to assist the police department and have to, he'll get back to his post when he can, or we'll try to get additional personnel to the school as soon as possible, which is clearly laid out in the contract.
Perfect.
Pretty solid clause in there for, civil disturbance, natural disaster, those kinds of things, that they can be posted elsewhere if the call dictates it. Then once it's back to, kind of a more stable state, that they're back to their post at the school.
Right.
Will that resource officer position be at home games and evening activities like that?
Technically, with the way that their hours are structured, they will be for the school day.
Okay.
That being said, that is something that we have, started making more of an emphasis on, is making sure our night guys are making their way to the games, showing their presence, being active in the community when these type of events are happening here in Lennox. In the past, we've tried it. Since we've gotten a couple personnel, they've been very active, so there's been a few times where, like football games, instead of going to the football game, they're driving to Minnehaha County Jail to book something. Again, another officer at night would definitely help.
I do think there is some discretion that the school has in that. I mean, the contract spells out the hours a day they're expected to be at the school, but I think they can have some leeway. If there's a larger game that's anticipating some rabble rousers, I don't know, that they can be tasked to the game instead for a couple hours that night.
We've had a few of those games.
We have.
I'm sure this is covered in the contract too, so maybe not relevant to this, but, obviously there's 3 schools in Lennox and then 1 in Worthing. Is this resource officer intended to cover all 4 school buildings?
Before I answer that question, I'd like to finish our conversation with the school.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It is already on the top of my plate. That one thing was a big deal when we initially talked about it. I'm trying to incorporate the Worthing School. They're part of our school district.
Yep.
So,
We know that Worthing wants more police coverage and they want our help with that. So I think there's probably going to be other parties that are added to that conversation as well.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I will update you as soon as I get to
My guess is that there's going to be a small committee formed from the council and school board to hash this agreement out, but I don't know that that's going to be necessary yet, so.
Other questions for Chief Erickson?
So on the other 2.5 months when the resource officer is assigned to the police department full-time, just like all the rest of the patrol officers?
Yes, we'll have to incorporate him, because currently right now with the schedules, I know you're kind of new, but our schedules are 12-hour rotating, so we cover the town 24 hours. So what we would do with that officer is try to incorporate him in the best possible position to help out where the need is necessary. That would be our night shift.
Makes sense.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
More discussion?
You referenced the LADC request letter. I don't see the request letter. More so, I just wanted to clarify how this compares to last year. I know we added the lot last year. If I remember right, I thought it was 45,000.
It was 45 in the lot last year.
So, just a little clarification on why that's getting bumped up, or is there, I know there's a lot of activity going on. Josh, maybe you have some clarity.
I'll find that letter as well and send it on to everybody. I thought that was in there.
Yep, the request was based around being able to fulfill the EDM contract for my service through Sioux Metro Growth Alliance, and then to continue with a business facade program. That's the basis of the request.
Other questions for Josh while he's up here? Josh,
Nate, where could I find the ambulance replacement specific line item under what one?
Fund 212, so it's going to be the third sheet. I'm on it. And it will be line 36, 212-4100-4340 machinery and equipment. You'll see this year's amount, $336,000.
Yes.
So that's a new ambulance for $175, police squad for $90, half-ton truck for streets at $30, large industrial power washer for streets at $5, and 40% of an SRO vehicle at $36.
That's what I didn't have, was the detail within. I just saw 336K and wondered.
Yeah, we've got comments all over the spreadsheet, so it doesn't look nearly as pretty if I put that in there. I would point out, and I think this is very important, the second penny budget does not include a set aside for future capital equipment, because we are using so much of it this time around. Initially, we had budgeted about 70 to go into future capital equipment, and really all that does is put it into future capital expenditure in the second penny. It doesn't move it anywhere. But with the SRO vehicle and the half-ton truck and power washer, we really needed to, I mean, if we're gonna keep this budget at least somewhat manageable in second penny, I don't think we can do it.
On another note, is there any opportunity from a grant perspective for ambulance recommission, or decommissioning and then purchasing a new one? Is that out, are there programs?
Surplus at all, or no? No. We will have some surplus equipment next year as well, but we didn't budget any of that revenue.
Basically, what we're looking at is doing a remount of our box onto a new chassis.
Okay,
A new ambulance right now is running like 375 to 385,000. So by remounting it on a chassis, we can do it for 175.
that's incredible.
The old chassis is, I think the last time we did it, we got $1,500 for it. There's not any value to it. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And to grant prospects, I don't know of any grant prospects for ambulances and that stuff.
For equipment.
Yeah, for equipment.
Fair. Yeah, when I saw the line item without breakout, I thought $336,000 sounded like a lot for an ambulance, but now it sounds like.
That won't even buy you a brand new one. Empty. Not even with all the equipment in it, so, wow.
Well, when you're not in it, you don't know it, so that's, thanks for the clarity.
And we don't wanna be in it.
Exactly.
Other questions for Alan while he's up there? All right,
One point of clarification on the water fund. I know there's a lot of discussion, I think even later tonight, one of our goals is to talk about the DOC money and potentially adding further relief to that surcharge fund. Like, if we make those changes, can that be like resolutions later, or is it something that's gotta be figured out right now?
No, it doesn't need to be figured out right now. It's something we can wait on. And it's going to take time. I mean, even if we were to give this to HDR yesterday, it would still take months to
Right.
dig through this.
So how do we handle that with the budget if things like that change?
You could do a supplemental budget mid-year.
Okay.
I don't know that we'd have to, because this is it's an enterprise fund, so we're not required to do it. Things change throughout the year in every budget, especially in a utility fund. I'm not terribly worried about things changing for the worse on that budget. My assumption is that, maybe you split the $10.5 million down the middle, half that goes to sewer, half that goes to water. And the interest just accrues where it accrues. Rate-wise, our assumption is that because that fund is gonna be flush, all the reserves will be full, that we don't have to, not only do we have to not increase rates, we could probably cut them.
Right.
So it would change our revenue line, but so would the incoming interest. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun, complicated project, and I'm glad you're going to volunteer to be on that committee later on this meeting. No spreadsheets.
Yeah.
More discussion from council?
Very thoughtful work, guys. I really like the detail.
They put a lot of work into this, they really did. A lot of detail, a lot of, the spreadsheet changes probably every hour of every day for about 3 weeks straight. Whether it's me or a department head, just fine tuning things, figuring out more detail, getting a little bit more information on a quote. I know this is a really hard budget, particularly for the police department. I've talked to multiple officers over there that have some of the same concerns we do, being out there at night. We're asking them to be there by themselves and hopefully have them back up in T or nearby from the sheriff's office. So it is something that I appreciate. Will's work in particular on this, because it's a tough question to answer.
discussion or questions, clarification from council?
On the Parks and Rec side, the recreation budget,
201?
201, yes. We've had reinvigorated our concession stands. And did we see, it doesn't look like we saw any real results from that.
Christie has thoughts on it.
Good question. I've been on the phone with lots of different communities trying to understand concessions. It sounds to me as though, from what I'm hearing, if we don't have host tournaments here, that is one of the main ways that you're able to generate some income. Just had a conversation on Friday with one of the baseball guys from Beersford, and he said that concessions, they also struggle at the expenses that you're going in, and you're trying to decide what you're gonna serve, and I think compared to the student body that you have at concessions, like at the school, right, it's just very different. You don't have the student body, you don't have those larger amounts of people there, so, yeah, so we're gonna be having some conversations with, Lennox Baseball Softball Association, see if there might be a way that we could partner, maybe even doing a couple tournaments and see what that might look like. So we've got some ideas going to try to rejuvenate that. More to come.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And as far as programs and fee collections, with what you've got analyzed, curious what you projected for growth and participation, or how this is calculated.
On line 201, 45, 11, 38, 39, we've got the growth of new programming at 2,500, and then incremental growth of each of the other programs based on kind of what the trajectory had been in years past.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting, we're seeing growth in new programs only. You know, you look at pickleball, soccer, okay, maybe not so much volleyball, but flag football, summer PE, that's where we're seeing growth over the last several years, and that shows in our revenue lines especially. So, yeah, I don't see pickleball slowing down. That's a sure thing in my mind. Can't say that I'm gonna participate, but, you know,
You're missing out.
I've only got one good Achilles left to give.
The other one's bionic. I've heard a lot of good things from the community about what's going on with our Parks and Rec, and it's fun to see the growth here.
I'd like to see that number more, and especially based off that survey that went out this morning. But it's just gonna be a matter of trying to figure out if there's community members willing to step up and help to lead some of those, and what we have time for, and how to break down to reach the different age groups that are interested, and how that looks, and to plan for that, so.
Nice.
I'm gonna suggest if there aren't more questions for Christie, that she skedaddle to get to a
I'll get
volleyball
to
game.
your volleyball.
Yeah.
We can stay for any other
What's the score?
Thanks,
23-23 first
Christie.
game.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. More discussion with the proposed budget?
Just for clarification, concert is municipal band.
Correct, yeah. The definitions or the descriptions that we have in here are kind of made for us by state law, so.
Are we still looking at, I'm not finding it in here, but getting everything paid?
For the next project?
2027.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be reflected in this budget. That'll be, the process, for if we decide to move forward with the 27 project, the first step is going to be getting the project on the state water plan. And then requesting funding once you're on that plan. And that's what will pay for design, it'll pay for all the whole process. So it would be independent of this budget, it'll be a project budget.
We wouldn't have any design fees or anything we have to plan for in 2026 to actually get it out to bid for 27.
So that would all be included in the funding package from Danner.
Okay.
For the SRF program. Assuming that that's how we're funding it, that's what I would recommend.
That's the clarity I needed, thank you.
It's a little bit, I mean, when you get to construction, then it gets a little bit maybe if you go to water or sewer, 602 or 604, you see a line there for federal grants. And we don't have anything in there for this year or next year, because we won't be receiving any federal grant revenue. And what that is, it's coming in and then it's going out on the balance sheet, right? You won't see an actual, you did the construction process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little bit wonky in how this is done. But we don't budget for that federal revenue unless it's already been a secured project.
Makes sense. From a water sewer perspective, we've talked at length about making sure we've got ourselves set up for any unforeseen failures with items that take months to get. Are we getting ourselves in a better position? Does this budget allow that to continue?
Absolutely. I think when the DOC first came in, I sent out a list to you guys of, important critical equipment that if a failure event happens, it's critical that it gets replaced. And most of those items have already been acquired, so they're in storage. They're kind of going to wait until the failure happens. I mean, I think we should get as much life out as what we have now, instead of, in that situation, it's nice to be proactive, but I don't see any, failure points as of now, just regular maintenance on them. I think they can continue to live a little longer. But failure will happen at some point. Yeah. All right. Other than that, on there is that purchase of I know Nate said it was a back truck, it's actually a trailer. Back trailer. Okay. There's been multiple situations in town when I needed to shut off the intersection of water main. A lot of times those valve boxes are full of debris, or mud, or rocks. And our solution to that right now is either, we hook a 1-inch hole into a hydrant and pretty much flush it out. But when we do that, we're undermining that pipe bedding, which isn't good, but it's just a way that we can access that valve in an emergency situation. If that doesn't work, we end up having to go to the next intersection, so instead of shutting off this block, now we're shutting off this block, and that's if I can get on that valve, so it could continue down farther and farther, so.
It defeats the whole purpose of having a loop system.
Right. This back trailer, they're awesome, and I've talked to various suppliers for the used one, and they all say just buy a new one, so I think a new one's the way to go. That was going to be split up between all three funds, so it's not such an impact on one direct fund.
Yeah, that's
It can be used in various situations for sure.
nice.
Yep.
Anything else for Kyle?
Thank you.
You bet.
From a streets perspective, breakdowns are inevitable. When we find, used equipment that we then try to stretch some life out of. Curious, Brian, how we feel about our 2026 budget and what that will allow for when we have breakdowns.
Sure, it's funny you say it like that, because that's almost exactly how I typed it in my notes. Breakdowns are inevitable. I think that's where getting on some sort of rotation, kind of like PD has, getting everything out within a 5-year period, it's going to mitigate a lot of those repairs and downtime. I think at this point right now, I have some equipment that as soon as it goes out the door, I feel like it's only a matter of time before I get a call from the operator and telling me that they'll be back in the shop in a little bit, so I think some of the stuff that we use more than any other equipment is 15 or more years old. When I get into the file cabinet and I can easily pick it out because the file is an inch or more thick, I think that's where those are the pieces of equipment I would like to exchange out a lot faster than others. And we try to use in other departments. I think that's kind of where the new pickup would come in. We try to rotate everything down to like the parks department. Right now, the oldest one we have in the streets is 2014, so that one would go over to parks. They have a current, I think it's a 2005 2500 that has been in for service several times this year, and it's costing us more than it's worth. So we did it, the last time we surplus 22, 23, we had a 1995 that we finally got rid of. So I think having some sort of rotation would certainly help with, especially the heavy equipment. So I think we're sort of on an upward trend. We're getting rid of the ones that start with 19. And now we're starting to try to get rid of the ones that are 20 and then a number. So hopefully we can continue going upwards. So I think we're on the right track, but that stuff, like Alan talked about, is super expensive. So it's kind of hard to put a number on which one you want to replace when I want to replace all of them, but realistically, I think we start at the top with the most used and we can go from there. So.
Every year, Brian and I get to the streets repairs and maintenance line and just look at it and kind of.
Yeah.
Just plan on it again.
And that's the hard part with buying some of the stuff that's 10, 12 years old. You're a lot of times buying from communities that have that rotation, so they're getting rid of theirs right as it might start having problems. So you could have a secondary or a third, inspection from a third-party company, and you can't tell if that part's gonna break down in 2 more years or when you're driving it home. So it's kind of hard. We've done that with the sweeper. It's far and away better than the old one, but there's also been several problems that we could avoid with newer equipment. So.
There's a comment, Nate, that you had on street lighting costing going up 16%.
Correct.
And is that installation of new street lights, or is that running our lights?
At this point, it's just running lights, although next year we will see new lights added to the inventory for the Highway 44 widening project through DOT. Those will be ours to maintain and take care of once they're installed and ready to roll. We probably won't see that cost until 27. New lights in Countryside, they're all in at this point. They're all in at this point, except for one cul-de-sac, which is going to be maybe 2 or 3 lights. They're all LED at this point, so they're as efficient as we can make them. But yeah, $67,280 is what we're planning on for next year for street lighting.
Are the lights in the older part of town all LED as well?
The only ones that are not LED are the ones in the business district. Nate and I had talked about that earlier this year about just going ahead and changing those over too. Everything else, I believe there's 208 total lights. And that's according to my spreadsheet. That's a couple years old, but I think a lot of it has to do with, in 23, they also requested like 19% that they wanted to increase. I think PUC landed on somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 or something like that. So we started changing them all over to LEDs, thinking that this is a good way to save money, but it kind of defeats the purpose when they keep pushing the rates, which I think a lot of it's inflationary. I think they invest quite a bit in different energy sources, so yeah, I think they're asking for quite a bit of more revenue, so it's tough, but I mean, you gotta have the streetlights, so you don't really notice how many there are until you look at the spreadsheet.
Or until one's
Checks
out.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like one goes and then 3 or 4 within a week.
Yep,
So.
we had 3 conversations last week about streetlights. And is this a cost we could recoup from our residents? It is. There are towns that have a street light fee that is added to their utility bills. We just don't know if that's the avenue we want to go down.
Can we get a dedicated line from a solar farm?
I could ask Luke. Maybe an Excel credit for renewable.
Anything else for Brian? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Nate, you mentioned the library budget was going down.
Correct.
Because this year it included the upgrades that we're enjoying, and we don't have that expense next year. Is that surely all that comes down to?
I see a slight increase for wages, of course. There's a market adjustment we need to do in library. Everything else is much in line with last year, if not a little bit down on some. Except for books. Books is where it was last year.
So a question on that, I know we had applied for, I believe it was the Poet Grant to potentially get new furniture for the library, and I don't believe we got that. Is that something we're still going to continue to pursue through grant funding? And then, at some point, do we say it's a necessity and then budget for it? I mean, we have this really nice new desk now, and the rest of the library is kind of like, meh. You know, I just, it's probably the last thing on people's minds, truthfully, but.
Working on paint on the walls to fill in the holes from the nice desk that we have yet too, but yes.
Yeah, I think that's something, I think we share the equipment purchases, the furniture purchases with the district.
School.
So that's something that we would,
Yeah.
again, both want to budget for
Yeah.
at the same time.
Thank you.
It would be nice if our budget and their budget matched up in timeline.
But they don't,
Yeah,
there's.
we're 6 months offset,
Yeah.
so.
Anything else, council? Okay. We don't have a motion for this at all, we're just gonna move to the next public hearing, is that correct?
That's correct. If there are no recommendations, we'll just move on to the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to
Thank you,
amended
guys.
comprehensive plan.
Mayor and council, the amended comprehensive plan, next up, as I pull my memo. We were approached by Lincoln County Planning Department to provide input on an application for change of zone outside our boundary, but within our planning jurisdiction. You'll recall that earlier this year, US Solar was approached, or US Solar approached us, excuse me, about a solar farm north of town. It's a 43-acre, 7-megawatt farm. We connect to the XL Energy substation here in Lennox and the distribution network. All that background information is in your packet. The farm is outside of city limits, but within our established planning jurisdiction, which led the planning department to reach out for comments upon receiving an application for change of zone from A1 agricultural to planned development, PD. The comprehensive plan is used to guide staff in responding to those requests, as well as the future land use map, but this doesn't identify a use for this parcel. So this is one of the parcels without an otherwise undefined future use, and typically that's how we would respond. That's kind of open to what may come, so to speak. But given the discussion with council earlier this year, there didn't appear to be any objection to that, but this is a significant change of use for that area, and I think it deserves some time and allow for discussion and clarification on the new use. So the new use would be, the new change of zone would be what's known as planned development. That's a district established by a new ordinance that specifically addresses what uses are approved at that parcel. The additional conditions under which they would need to operate as well. It's a fairly intensive process. I think the closest one is at the US 18 I-29 interchange. They've asked the city, the county has asked the city to consider an amendment to the existing comprehensive plan to establish future use of this land as planned development, or in our case, commercial. So I've listed out a number of questions in the memo for you to consider tonight from the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this amended comprehensive plan at their meeting in September 25, 4-1 vote. The Lincoln County Planning Commission placed this item on their agenda for the meeting scheduled on October 20. They recommended not passing it to the Lincoln County Commission on a 1-4 vote. On your desk is an email I received late this afternoon from US Solar's consultant, Tina Munson. I apologize, mine printed off red for her comments, but just some comments from her that clarify some of the discussion items that I had in here for their perspective. One of the major items that they bring back to the county is that they're going to be using sheep grazing on their property. That was something that actually came up several times in discussion throughout this process. So they're looking at other use outside of the fence line. That's something more consistent with the agriculture district as well. So they're trying to make that work into the neighboring properties as best they can. under each of these bullet items, you'll see just a number of responses to our comments. I just want to make sure that was available for you tonight as requested, and that is available on the back table as well.
Okay, if there's public comment on this, now's the time to do that. Come forward, state your name and address. Seeing that there's none, we'll move on to council discussion.
So I attended the planning and zoning meeting for the city, when they passed the recommendation to come to us. There was one member that did not support it, he did not vote in favor of it, and his main concern was that it was on some what would be considered, arterial streets, you know, like main thoroughways, so as the city grows, these streets, so 277th and 465th,
65.
would be like Boynton Avenue. I mean, they would be like, well, that is Boynton, or that is, excuse me, Cleveland Avenue, but they would become, you know, main thoroughways through town. So he was concerned because the decommission of this, I mean, that's years out, and how that might impact future growth on the northwest side of our city. I think driving through Sioux Falls, I mean, obviously there are water towers in random places, and there's, you know, electrical plants and stuff, and I don't sit there and think, why the heck did they put that right in the middle of, you know. So I see his concern, and I understand his concern with that, because, you know, even where I work, we always talk about the best place to put a business, and you want to be on those main thoroughways. But I also don't know that it necessarily hinders our growth. I don't know, I guess.
That's a 50-year plan, correct?
The comprehensive plan,
Well, for their agreement.
I think it was a 30-year deal.
Is it 30?
30 as I recall, I can look it up.
Okay.
And I mean, at this point, the most growth we have on the north side of town is countryside, so that is residential. I don't know, I just,
Well, it's gonna keep going north and west, is it, you know?
right,
We're gonna end up having this thing right next to some residential.
yeah. And I know they're gonna have the screening, but then I guess my question, now knowing they're gonna have sheep, like, as we grow as a city, will their plan to maintain the, I mean, remind me again, if our municipal boundaries come up to this parcel, are they required to annex?
No. We don't, you know, part of our policies, and I think this is in the comprehensive plans, we have a policy that doesn't allow forced annexation. There are situations, you know, if a subdivision is happening right next to town, we'll ask and hopefully be able to make that happen. Alpine Addition is a good example of that. I would want to annex them if we were to their boundary,
Right.
simply because that helps us capture additional tax revenue.
Yeah,
Um,
but I don't want sheep in the middle of town.
To be fair, it was allowed until about 3 years ago.
They're cute, but a lot of people call them range maggots for a reason.
Yeah. My guess is, you know, because we put a lot of thought into what happens when that day comes. What does this look like? Because it'll be zoned in here, in the comprehensive plan, it'll be listed as commercial. When they actually get to that point, I think the best option is going to be to re-adopt our own planned development district for this parcel, if that's what's still being used there. I don't think that will be the case, but if it is, then we will want to adopt a planned development district that essentially mirrors whatever Lincoln County had set up X many years prior. And that's where you take care of those different regulations. Like, you know, I get it, while this was out in the country, it made sense to have the sheep. Now that we're in town, maybe not so much. Now that being said, we do have a specific district, a urban agriculture district that allows for keeping of some livestock.
I guess where, I keep going back to that comment made in the planning and zoning meeting, like what do we envision to be along this street? Because this is, am I off, is this the Klondike essentially, or is? am
No,
I
it'd be
off?
miles south yet.
Okay, so it's just south of D and D.
Klondike's 276.
Okay.
Yeah, a mile and a half south of Klondike,
So,
half mile, excuse me.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, you think about it and you go a couple miles to the east and then you have the fairgrounds.
Mhm.
So I mean, really, this could be more light industrial in that area, and then in which case I have no objection to this whatsoever.
Right.
But if you're thinking that this is going to be more commercial and like a business district like Sunshine, then maybe it's weird. But again, how many years is it gonna be before we get to that point?
Right.
Is it more than 30 years and this is decommissioned at that point and they don't renew or whatever it is that they do after the 30-year period?
Yeah, we don't know when we'll be out there, right? That's always kind of the challenge with these questions that we have that are within our planning jurisdiction but outside city limits. The question is always, how soon will we be there? And how's that gonna work with what we expect when we get to that point? And again, expectations may change in that time frame as well, right? 20 years from now, the screen they have up is gonna look very different than it does in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
In terms of the last comprehensive plan, most of you will recall that when we looked at arterial streets, the highways, we wanted commercial along, and then you go to least dense beyond that, with the exception of down by, where the highway is, you have industrial. How you typically do this is when you're on an arterial street, you have commercial along there, you go to multifamily, which is the next least dense zone, and then you go to single family, which is the least dense zone that we have outside of agriculture. And that's typically how it would develop.
And this is a 25-year initial term, is what US Solar has out there, not 30, so 25.
On their lease.
Yeah, okay, and then it's an option to continue after that.
I think it's a great opportunity for them and for our county, and I just kind of wanted to understand in the grand scheme of our comprehensive plan how it fit in, but I think I'm convincing myself, so.
My opinion hasn't swayed from our initial conversation back in May. And that was affirming this.
Any other discussion? And I'll look for a motion to approve resolution 2025-102702.
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And motion carries. All right, I do now, I'll close public hearings at 8:14 PM. Move on to the next item, which is visitors to be heard. Any visitors to be heard tonight, please come forward to the podium. State your name and address. All right, seeing that there's none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Anything you'd like to draw attention to within this tonight?
A fairly busy consent agenda here. First thing I'd point out is the request for funding from Secure South Dakota. That's for some hardware here, including a new server. We've got a United Way Connecting Kids agreement. That's a scholarship program we run for our Parks and Rec kids to be able to have resources if they can't afford our programs. Our 2026 health pool agreement for health insurance. Final pay application for the Band Shell Museum project. A special event permit for a color run coming up this weekend. A plat for track 5A of the Poppins Edition, just outside of town. Personnel actions, and that's the one I had asked we add to, so on there right now You will see recommendations to hire Eli Satzinger as water and wastewater specialist at $25 an hour. Joseph Stiegel as emergency medical responder at $3.43 an hour and $12.09 a call. To that, we add a resignation, Amy Thrun, as a part-time patrol officer. She's got a full-time gig that's going to take her away from that. And then adding a part-time police officer, Bailey McCormick, at the part-time rate, which I think is $27.40.
Yes, I believe so.
Moving on, we've got our contract with the DOT for sweeping Highway 44 and 17, Highway 17 for the next 3 years. And then a number of reports. And item U was alcohol licenses. We have no new applications, they're all renewals, so we don't need to do any public hearings. I will point out though that one bar opted not to renew their license, that is Beamer's. So we will now have 2 liquor licenses available. And some discussion today on how best to dispose of those licenses. I do think you will see an auction coming up for what's available. That is what most municipalities have been turning to instead of simply granting those licenses.
Discussion from council.
With the, I love that we do the grants with United Way, but I personally did not know we did that until I was on council, so can we maybe promote that a little bit more, especially as our programs expand? I think that's important.
Yeah, Christy and I talked about that too. I think Jess was a part of that discussion as well, and just getting the word out a little bit deeper.
That'd be great.
Whether that's in the announcement or whether that's in the registration page.
Perfect, thank you.
I think the registration for this year was done before Christy had started, so I think it was just too late to add it.
Josh, do you have some updates you can share, some color you can put on your economic development manager's report? Ongoing projects, project updates, anything that can be shared or?
We are making great progress on our LADC zone parcel on Cleveland. You can expect to just keep your eye out on that. I don't want to share specifics quite yet. The project just isn't to that point.
Sure.
Other than that, you'll see our house on the market here, getting the walls painted. That's the house that we moved into 505 Garfield. We're excited to try to do that project again next year. Had a few hiccups, but we learned a little bit in that process, and we'll do it better next year.
How many bedrooms is that house that you put on the Garfield property?
I wish I
Trying to do some pre-advertisement for the
I
sale.
haven't even been in it, to be honest with you, but it'll be all finished up here, and everybody will be able to see it here pretty soon.
You spent time on the Bill Zortman radio show?
I did. Sioux Metro Growth Alliance has a regular spot on Bill Zortman's show, and sometimes I get to sub in for my boss and do my best to promote Lennox on the program. So aside from that, the other things that we're doing, we're at Lennox Citizens Academy. We just put out an event to talk about the housing study. I'm sure you're all very familiar, but if you or anybody know in and around town wants to come and find out more about the housing study, we invited Bert Hermie-Trout, who is the author, to come present, explain his methodology and the major findings of the study. So that'll be on November 18th at Security Bank at 6 p.m. For anybody. It's open to the public, so.
December is on tip, not scheduled yet?
Not scheduled yet, but the plan is for in December, we'll have another Citizens Academy event. Again, those are all open to the public. And it's just a 101 on TIF education, tax increment finance districts. We've seen a lot of misinformation and just under-informed folks across the state, as we consort with our economic development colleagues. So I thought that would be a good idea for us to provide some education on.
Good deal.
That's great.
Yeah, looks like we had a very interested citizen speaking to the housing deal. I would hope that he'll join you guys for that conversation.
Yes, and anybody, I mean, really, we'd love to have you out, and I'll provide some refreshments and nothing crazy, but, come have some lemonade and learn more about your city.
Thanks, Jeff.
As for the Cleveland property, we'll have a public hearing on that, is that correct?
Yes, on the rezone,
Yes.
yes,
That
that's
just went
scheduled
through
for
planning.
November 10th.
Okay, thank you.
That's the Oppenheim edition, the one Josh was talking about is on the opposite side of Cleveland.
On
the
east.
side of-
You're on the
The
east
one
side?
that is already zoned R2.
We zoned that
Thank you.
2 years ago.
Maybe 3.
Might have been 3.
Okay.
I wasn't here, but.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Thank you for clarifying that it's two different properties.
Oppenheim, or wait a second, sorry.
Oppenheim or Oppenheim, I'm not sure which it is the west side of Cleveland, Creekside is the east side of Cleveland.
Yep, and so the Development Corporation owns the one that is on the west side of Cleveland. It's about 5 and some change.
East side.
I'm sorry, I did this.
Okay, well, that's where I'm like, just making sure.
Can you clarify?
Right over there.
Okay.
So it's a much smaller parcel than the one that the Oppenheims own currently. And
Okay.
the one that has been going through the process of the rezone, this is about 5 or 6 acres. And LADC zoned it for upwards of 3 years now. And we've been working pretty hard to attract some developers for multifamily there.
A lot of good interest this year, really healthy interest.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else for Josh? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Other discussion?
Yeah, nice to see our library numbers rebound again. We've got a little change in the weather and more activity around that part of town, so
You wanna look at the new desk?
nice to see the numbers. Well, it looks like you've had a flurry of activity over there.
We've had a big flurry of activity. Our story time numbers have gone up. Our after-school programming has been pretty much full for all signups. We're getting ready to start with robotics now. We're gonna have 3 two-day sessions coming up here in November for 5th and 6th graders, and then another round of 2 weeks of Legos again before we go to Christmas break. So.
Awesome.
Yep. And then we did just attend the trunk or treat. We saw Chad Sunday night. I had 2 staff that went to Worthing on Saturday, handed out a bunch of promo stuff, and then of course candy for the kids. And then we did the same thing again on Sunday night down here at the high school. And I talked to Janelle today, and they had about 400 people that went through there on Sunday night. So we had a runner going after more candy.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So.
Audra, do you still have the toy lending library as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are still doing the toy lending library. I'm hoping that there's gonna be a story coming out in the paper here sometime soon. I did an article for them a while back and haven't seen it.
And that's kind of donation funded, correct?
That is donation funded, yes, that's all donation funded. We go to Sioux Falls to their main place, and pick up the boxes. And, we have a few kids that enjoy them because they are articulated to, some special needs and sensories. And so we have, 3 families for sure that are regularly checking out those toy lending libraries
That's great.
boxes, so.
Good to hear, thank you.
Any fun stories from the Tri-Conference up in Grand Forks?
Got some good pictures.
No, it was a great time at Tri-Conference.
I'll bet.
We heard R.L. Stein speak.
I saw that on your list.
And it was more of a pre-question, or we had to give our questions ahead of time. So in one of those types of situations, he should be a comedian. He was hilarious to listen to. He was harassed on the flight from Minneapolis to Grand Forks because he was a New Yorker on the plane. Other than that, Abby Jimenez spoke, and we're very glad that we got to hear her. She's a very hip rom-com author, but she just had a post out on her publicity pages saying that she is going to be taking a break and she will not be doing any more of those events in the future. So we were very fortunate to be able to hear her and listen to her speak. And then we also had a children's author. She spoke, if you're aware of the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And she talked about how she came up with those storyboards and those ideas. She's 70-some years old and was going great yet. R.L. Stein was up there in age. And then we had Neil Schusterman, he spoke last, and he's more of a sci-fi fantasy author. And they are working on putting his 1-book series into I think think, Netflix or Peacock series coming out, so that was interesting to listen to as well.
I'll bet.
I'm glad you and Jessica were able to represent Lennox in
Yes.
the library board.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Further discussion?
Lift station pumps appear to be in good order, right, with one ready to be retired.
I can speak a little bit. The one that's being replaced, it's budgeted for 2026 replacement. It is the original one with the lift station when the metals went in. The other one has been replaced. If you look at the run times of that pump, you can see compared to the other one that it's getting longer in time. So for which the replacement one takes, shorter amount of time than the older one. So it's showing its age, and it'll probably fail in the next 2 or 3 years. So being proactive with that one, because that's something you want.
That's pretty critical. Yeah.
You want something to deliver water when it needs to.
Yes, sir.
The lift stations were also cleaned and inspected by vendor this last month, or actually this month, last week. And it looks to be in good shape. You got no real damage from H2S in the concrete, so keeping an annual sewer or lift station cleaning, I think has helped tremendously.
They can cross it off in one day, if I remember.
Yep.
One day for all
They're a
four
really
lift
good crew.
stations.
I mean, they're expanding now, they're getting a new truck, so I hope to keep them around for sure.
Good,
Yep.
good. Nice to have a third party come along and certify.
Yep.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
More discussion? Okay,
Taking a lot of bullets.
look for a motion to approve consent agenda then.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? All right, we'll do roll call. Welch?
Aye.
Doherty?
Aye.
Vandrow?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Swear?
Aye.
Cheesy?
Aye.
All right, motion carries for consent agenda. We're on to 5, new business. We have resolution 2025-102701, the LCRWS expansion interfund loan.
Mayor and council, we're at the point in this project where we need to start dedicating specific funding to the expansion of the Lewis and Clark Regional Water System. So our first major payment is due next year. It's about $130,000. The ones at this point have been 8,000, 13, 30,000, something like that, and that's something we can handle. But when you get up to these coming years, it's gonna be pretty sizable. So in 2021, we agreed to participate in a system expansion that would bring the capacity to approximately 60 million MGD. Our share of that would be another about 200,000 gallons a day, at a cost of approximately $900,000 remaining. Just remind folks that we reduced that cost by about 33% a month ago from what it was with some new numbers from Lewis and Clark. Originally, we had planned to fund this expansion through the use of a water revenue bond, which would have been secured with a new surcharge to Lennox water customers. However, in securing the money from the Department of Corrections in return for agreeing to serve a new prison, we now have ample cash available for such an expense, even if we're only using the interest gains. However, in order to access cash for that project, it needs to be in the water fund and not the sewer fund. So this resolution is the step in loaning that funding from the sewer fund to the water fund. Unlike other loans, this is treated as a forgivable loan with no term and no interest and thus no payments due. If you do wish to pay back the loan to the sewer fund, I recommend doing so with use of a surcharge over the course of 30 years. I recommend a motion to approve the resolution.
Discussion.
I know your recommendation to, if we were wanting to pay it back as a surcharge, is there any other way by law that we could recoup those, those funds if we needed to?
As an enterprise fund, it's gonna have to come from revenue in that fund, which you can either do with rates or you can do with interest.
Okay.
So you could, I mean, depending on what happens with the DOC funding discussion as a goal for next year, it's entirely possible that you could fund the payback with interest that you if you transfer money from sewer to water, $4 million, $5 million. You could probably fund this whole project over the course of 10 years just with the interest gains.
That's what we're into right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, my
No
appetite
additional
is,
cost.
yeah, my appetite is not to add another surcharge.
Well, but I think it's like left pocket, right pocket, like why even do that?
Yeah.
Why not just do the non-forgivable?
Yeah, for sure.
Right, because
That's
it's
what
all
the
gonna have to go
resolution is.
back to sewer, so you might as well just keep the gains in sewer at that point.
Totally agree.
Other discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-10-27-01.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. On to B, planning retreat follow-up.
Mayor and council, the planning retreat we held on October 15 yielded 4 goal areas for us to focus on in 2026. You'll note in the attached goal templates that additional work is needed to refine those goals in a full work plan. I don't think we really had enough time while we were at the retreat to refine this as far as it needed to go. So I'd appreciate discussion tonight on which members of the council wish to serve on a committee for each goal area. I'd suggest 2 for each goal area, not 3. Staff members, say here have been, will be assigned to each goal area as well. We talked about that at our staff meeting today. Committees will need to meet on a regular basis to continue work on the goals and action steps identified by the committees. Once they start meeting, I would suggest selecting a committee lead from the staff, completing a goal template and identifying those action steps, meeting semi-regularly, and then providing a monthly report to the full city council. Additionally, I recommend 2 of these committees begin meeting immediately. First, on the DOC funding, that work has already started and ongoing. We have continuing discussions on the classification of those funds that are happening right now. And then the ambulance district is also, the work on that has also begun. We need to get moving forward now if we're looking for a vote in April of 26. So goal areas are below, and I'm looking for council members for each of those.
I'm interested in the, joining the group with the DOC funds.
Me as well.
As am I.
Anybody else interested in DOC? We can do 3 without hitting a quorum. So is everybody okay with that?
Definitely.
Okay. How about finance and infrastructure on the, economic development?
I would be interested in that one.
I would be interested in economic development as well.
You put me on that one too.
Equipment?
I can do that.
Any others?
You wanted at least 2, correct?
That would be my hope.
I would do equipment as well.
And public safety. This is the ambulance district.
I can be in that.
I would be willing to be on that.
I'll be an alternate.
I think I'd.
Well, it's like I created a slot for that, but we will.
It's right there. Very, very.
Oh, it wasn't highlighted, my mistake. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll have more information coming out on that, of course.
There's not necessarily an action item with this.
No, each specific group will have their own work to do here. DOC and ambulance, fairly soon. So plan on those meetings starting quickly.
Okay. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, we're adjourned.
We're on the 3rd game.
And you can't get a whole. And
I've never eaten
I know.
I will say yes to
I was just waiting for a minute.
I was like, dude, I mean, Sue Hall's Christian was like.
Right.
As soon as I get this